evening. If you'll find your seats, we'll get started. We're going to be closing the doors and getting this evening underway. Welcome to the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame and Annual Awards Banquet. We trust you're having a good time today. At least we had some great weather. Not as hot as it generally is down here. I always like to start out the evening by saying and acknowledging some very special people, and one group that is extremely special to the Missouri Broadcasters Association. We have a very long-term relationship with the Missouri National Guard, and I'll be doing some introductions from the National Guard, but I want to thank them for their sponsorship of this evening, and congratulations to you guys. I also, our producers for this evening, I just found out earlier, I've been at the association 19 years, and Brian Lorenz has been doing this for 10 years longer. 29 years he's produced this show. So thank you, Brian. And his partner in crime, Dan Fry. Dan, thank you very much. And, of course, they couldn't do this without the august efforts of the very fine crew who has worked with us for many years and come down, and we all have gotten to know them very well, and they're like family to us. So thanks to the crew, all of you guys, people on cameras and the audio and all of that. But most especially to Channel 9 in St. Louis, KETC, because they turned their studios over to us, and I don't know if you realize how much production goes into one of these things, but it's huge. And we get a lot of studio time with some very, very nice equipment, courtesy of the fine folks at Channel 9 and KETC in St. Louis. So thanks to them. I also, though, three people who are very special to me, and particularly this year, those of you that may not know, I had open heart surgery in January of this year. So I really didn't touch this convention all that much. And the three people in our office just picked this ball up and didn't miss a beat, and that's our Mandy Highland and Gina McCarty and Frank Forgy. So thank you to you guys very, very much for what you're doing. Now, before I get into the Hall of Fame, I just want to make one mention about tonight. You know, we are moving over now to a cash bar, so for the evening. But don't despair. There is another open bar later this evening. We wouldn't want you to be deprived or feel slighted in any way. But the open bar has moved. In your program, it says the chairman's reception is in Mist. And you may not, some of you may not know, but there was a fire here at the lodge, an unfortunate event a couple of months ago. So we've had to rearrange some rooms a couple of times, and as they've rebuilt and repaired from the damage of the fire. So the chairman's reception, and I'll make another note of this later tonight, is actually in the Sea Chase. So it's pretty easy to find. Just go back out to the lobby and look for Marbella. It's spelled Marbella, but it's pronounced Marbella. So go down towards Marbella, and you'll go down to the end of that hall, and you'll see a sign that says Sea Chase. Just follow the sign until you hear the raucous noise, and that'll be Sea Chase, and it'll be full of broadcasters having a good time. In that chairman's reception, we have a new sponsor that I wanted to make a special note of acknowledgement of, is Rentrack. And for those of you who are in television in this crowd, I will encourage you, if you're not happy with the service you're getting out of Nielsen, if you think it's too high, or you think that your group, your in-tab is a little low, I would encourage you to talk with the Rentrack people there tonight. And I think you'll be very happy you did when you have a chance to visit with them. I want to mention a couple of mentions. We're going to go into the Hall of Fame. I want to mention a couple of things about our Hall of Fame. This is only the second year that we've done the Hall of Fame, so we're playing a little bit of catch-up with that. But we're very happy that everyone's here. We have our recipients all here tonight, and we're very pleased to have them here. And I wanted to introduce our immediate past chairman, Mike Smythe from Cape Girardeau. who will be the master of ceremonies for this evening's event for the Hall of Fame. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, John. Thank you. It is my pleasure, and we go through this pretty quickly with the screens, if you'll watch, to introduce the 2012 Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame inductees. So without going any further, our first one is Gerald Shepard, and you please watch the video.
Gerald A. Shepard was thrust into the national spotlight on April 2, 1968, at the annual NAB convention in Chicago. How I Do $300,000 a year in a town of 13,000 was packed with operators. The walls were completely lined by those standing. All seats were long taken. In the early days of FM, Shepard encouraged station owners in the nearby towns to apply for an upgrade to Class C FM frequencies. In the FCC's original allocations, low-powered Class A frequencies were assigned to rural communities. The Class Bs and Cs with their high power were assigned to cities. Gerald's belief was that because of population densities, the A's should be in the cities, with the C's outstate where the signal had to travel many more miles to accumulate enough audience to give the station economic viability. He led the way, getting the FCC to move Class Cs to Moberly and Hannibal. However, he didn't try to use this as a competitive advantage. He asked all owners around to join him on the lofty peak of high power. He also encouraged the owners to program something more than beautiful music. His station in Farmington became the first FM affiliate of St. Louis Cardinals baseball. Gerald put programming exclusively on the FM to create a demand for receivers. All of this took place at a time when Cadillac was the only automobile that offered an FM radio as an option. To get FM in cars and pickups, Gerald started selling converters that mounted under the dash. This device brought the FM sound to the existing AM radio in the vehicle. Involvement in faraway communities required a means of getting audio back to the studios. Shepard prevailed on George Marty to build the first multi-channel Marty unit. This allowed one channel to be assigned to the FM, one to the AM, with still a third frequency to use for communicating between the remotes and the studio. Shepard knew the value of radar in aircraft for storm identification. He installed weather radar at the stations around 1969. The National Weather Service reported at the time that this was the first weather radar operated by a radio or TV station in Missouri. Another legacy of Gerald Shepard is the present-day structure of the Missouri Broadcasters Association. He served as president in 1971 and 72. Shepard insisted that the association not only have a full-time executive director, but the individual should be a respected broadcaster. Gerald recruited Ted Griffin as the first full-time executive director. Ted served in that position until 1993, just over 20 years. Shepard also insisted that the association have a method of funding so it could pay this person a salary, plus provide services to the members far beyond what dues alone could support. His vision lives on today in the form of Missouri Public Education Program, or MOPEP, the association's major source of revenue. The striving for a high level of service to the members, as envisioned by Gerald Shepard some 40 years ago, remains unchanged. Gerald Shepard was centered in the faith that goal setting, concentration of purpose, hard work, and perseverance would produce accomplishment. He believed in himself and those working near him. He was a champion of our medium. He impacted many small and medium market radio operations across the country. And this is why Gerald Shepard has earned his place in the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting for Gerald Shepard is David Shepard.
When J.A. received the Medal of Honor that the journalism school does at the University of Missouri, he made a very short acceptance speech, the only speech that, and it was probably the speech everybody loved the best. And I would like to give that on behalf of him. He would say, I'm humble, I'm honored, and I thank you.
Our next recipient is Bob Warmington.
Bob Wormington was the vice president and general manager of KBMA KSHB TV from its inception in 1970 to 1993 when he retired. He also served as the general manager of WDAF television in Kansas City from 1964 to 1968. Bob was the very essence of a true broadcast pioneer. Born in 1926 in Dodge City, Kansas, he graduated from Washburn University in Topeka with a Bachelor of Arts degree, and in 1950 earned a Master of Arts degree in journalism from KU. He was an aviation cadet in World War II with the Army Air Corps, and when the Korean War escalated, he was recalled to duty and assigned to the photo production department. Upon his discharge in 1951, he returned to WDAF in the production department as a producer-director until 1955, then program manager, then assistant general manager in 1958, and general manager in 1964. In 1968, he left to become president of Color Systems, Inc., a Kansas City producer of television commercials. He became the first general manager of KBMA, a new independent station that signed on in 1970. It was the first automated station in the nation, using the resources of the parent company, KBMA Assurance, which was based in Kansas City. His decision to counter-program against traditional network programming was realized with the likes of local kids programs, major local sports franchises, and syndicated programming that appealed to the younger viewer. Bob's decision to buy a remote production van for live programming was instrumental in the station's success. KBMA was the first station to produce and air a Big 8 football package, and he partnered with Paramount to develop a first-run miniseries programming for independent stations. Bob was a founding board member of the Association of Independent Television Stations, INTV. While Bob was chairman of the board of INTV, he maintained a dialogue with AT&T in connection with their proposed long-line rates. They wanted to charge the independents almost double that of the networks. He managed to delay this move until satellite service was available. The increases didn't happen, and he saved independents and the rest of the broadcasting industry many millions of dollars. Bob kept it fun and challenging with a focused vision of what the station would become as it grew. It became such an important part of the broadcast scene, not only in Kansas City, but the country. And this is why Bob Wormington has earned his place in the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
And accepting is Kareem Warmington.
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you and to the group who chose Bob. He worked in television and media for 43 years, and he said there was never a day that he did not enjoy going to work. Thank you very much from me and my family.
Thank you. Moving along, we go to Kurt Brown.
Kurt Brown started his first job in radio in February 1955 as a sales rep for then KBIA, Columbia's second radio station, while attending the University of Missouri in his hometown of Columbia. He worked briefly on the air at KRMS Osage Beach in 1956, just before being drafted into the Army. While in the Army, he worked weekends on 2 radio stations, Saturday afternoons on WDXN in Clarksville, Tennessee, and Sunday afternoons on WKOA in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. In 1957, Kurt worked in the Public Information Office at Fort Campbell, doing military news on several stations in the Tennessee-Kentucky area. In 1958, he became the program director for KWOS in Jefferson City, and then went to Springfield, Missouri in 1961, where he worked as a sales representative for KWTO. In 1969, he became the general manager of KTTS AM/FM in Springfield and remained in that position until he retired in 1999. Kurt served as president of the Missouri Broadcasters Association in 1978-79 and served on 3 regional boards: the National Broadcasters Association in New York, the Associated Press Broadcasters Association in Washington, D.C., and the Country Radio Broadcasters in Nashville. He was also quite busy in his local community serving on these boards: Springfield Chamber of Commerce, Better Business Bureau, St. John's Hospital, Ozark Empire Fair, and Campfire Girls. Kurt was named Boss of the Year by a local women's organization because he hired the first female broadcast sales representative, the first female news on-air reporter, and the first female DJ in Springfield history. All of this took place in 1969 and 1970. Under Kurt's leadership, KTTS was on top of the Arbitron ratings in Springfield from 72 to 99, never dropping below a 20 share. He always handled all of the station's promotional efforts, including such things as the annual Listener Appreciation Show, the annual Easter egg hunt, participation in the annual Christmas parade, many free country club movie nights at various drive-in theaters, and much more. Several former employees have gone on to great careers: the head of the Miami, Florida Chamber of Commerce, the head of a black internet network in New York, general manager of stations in Pittsburgh, Kansas, owners of insurance agencies, and ad agency executives. Since his retirement in 1999, he has worked part-time jobs in radio at KRZK, KOMC in Branson, KWTO in Springfield, and KADI in Springfield. He won the Best Editorial Award from the MBA 10 different years, having done over 1,500 on-air editorials over a 20-year period. Kurt continues to write newspaper editorials, even to this day, in Springfield and Branson. And this is why Kurt Brown has earned his place in the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
I would like my picture, accepting as Kurt Brown, but I'd like my picture taken with Dolly Parton just one time, Larry. What do you think?
Well, Charlie Earls told me to keep it about 15 seconds, but I'm going to cheat and do a little more than that, but not much. If I did get any credit, I certainly appreciate it, but in thinking back, probably because I was smart enough to hire some really great people to work for me, and we had a great staff for many, many years, and I certainly appreciate every one of them. My advice to all other managers: to always be positive. When your people do something good, pat them on the back and don't be negative. Unfortunately, I know one or two that are pretty negative, and it's unfortunate. But my motto has always been, and still is, super serve the listener. If you do that, you will get more listeners, sell more advertising at higher prices due to your higher ratings, and that means more profit, of course. It all falls into place if you truly super serve the listener. Cutting expenses, automating, offering no news and weather coverage is not serving the listener. I'm happy that many of my ex-employees have gone on to even higher jobs, as mentioned in the previous tape up here. And I want to thank Don Hicks and everyone at the Missouri Broadcasters. I was president back in 78 and 79 and enjoyed serving on all those national boards. Again, thank you very much for tonight. And I'm happy to say that my children and grandchildren are sitting over here with me, and I'm just proud as punch of them. And my beautiful wife, of course.
Our next recipient is Jack Buck.
Jack Buck was born in Holyoke, Massachusetts, the third of 7 children. He grew up rooting for the Boston Red Sox and listened to such radio broadcasting greats as Red Barber and Mel Allen. He even heard games broadcast from Havana, Cuba at night. When Buck was 15, his family moved to Cleveland, Ohio. He graduated from Lakewood High in January of 1941 and was drafted into the Army during World War II at the age of 19. While crossing the Remagen Bridge into Germany in March of 1943, Buck suffered arm and leg injuries and received a Purple Heart. Buck returned home in 1946 and enrolled at Ohio State University, commencing his broadcast career at the campus radio station in Columbus. A broadcasting teacher at Ohio State actually told Buck to find something else to do for a living. Buck persisted, however, got minor league assignments, and in 1954 landed a job announcing St. Louis Cardinals games on radio with Harry Carey. Buck's low-key style blended with that of the boisterous Carey. He left the Cardinals briefly in 1960 to work with ABC when that network carried baseball and the fledgling American Football League. He left ABC after a dispute and went on to work with CBS Radio, covering Monday Night Football and 17 Super Bowls from 1978 to 1995. He was best known, however, as the voice of the Cardinals. In 1987, Jack Buck was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York.
I want the Cardinal fans to know when they hear me that I am humble, happy, and very grateful. Thank you.
Buck's nearly 5 decades included many memorable calls.
He starts the windup. Here's the pitch, and it's a strike called. A no-hitter for Gibson. Swinging a long one into left field. Adios, goodbye, and maybe that's the winner. A 3-run homer by Clark, and the Cardinals lead by the score of 7-5, and they may go to the World Series on that one, folks.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson. I don't believe what I just saw.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard. Go crazy.
Swing. Look at there. Look at there. Look at there. Home run, McGuire. 61. Pardon me while I stand up and applaud.
I would rather say that's a winner. Have a good night. Thank you. Thank you.
And this is why Jack Buck has earned his place in the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
Nothing like broadcast excitement, no question, excepting Ron Jacober.
During the first half hour of my speech tonight, that's what Jack said. That's how he started his response when he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. Congratulations to the Hall of Famers, to all of them tonight. I think the best award that those of us in this business can get is to be recognized by our peers. So congratulations, and a special one, my friend Jay Randolph over there, who you're going to meet in just a minute. We shared an office, a desk. We breathed the same air. We looked into the same camera. We talked into the same microphone for some 16 years at Channel 5 in St. Louis. I spent more time with him than I spent with my wife. I'm really honored to accept this in Jack's name. John Francis Buck was the most unique and talented person I think I've ever known. He was a man of great intelligence, great wit, and something this group can understand and appreciate. He was a great communicator, as evidenced by his induction in all the Hall of Fames that you just heard about. Personally, I treasure every moment I spent with him. When he was healthy and still doing Cardinal baseball, he'd wander into the sports office middle of the afternoon. We had a glass wall. We could see him kind of walking in slowly. And all the work would stop because Jack would entertain us for an hour or two with stories and jokes and some advice if we ever asked for it. I grew up as a great Cardinal fan and a fan of Jackson and Harry Carey, so Jack seemed bigger than life to me. When I was really a young pup at Channel 5, working with Jay. Jay would miss an occasional Cardinal broadcast, Cardinal telecast with golf or football for NBC. So the time came for me to do my first Cardinal telecast. It was a Cardinal Cub game at Wrigley Field in Chicago. So I did the pregame show from the field and came up to the booth, and frankly, I was a little intimidated. I was pretty quiet through the first 2 innings. I didn't say much. I was pretty nervous sitting next to this icon. After the second inning, he looked at me, he said, "You probably want to do some play-by-play, didn't you, kid?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, do it." And he got up and left the booth. That was his way, I think, of making me more relaxed, because he'd been sitting there, and I think he was looking over my shoulder. Well, he entertained us with scores of Super Bowls and World Series, as you heard, 17 Super Bowls, 11 World Series. He was the first host of talk radio. Jack was incredibly bright. He could have done anything he wanted to do. The format, we claim, was started at KMOX, of course, and the first radio station in America, maybe in the world, to start talk radio involving the audience, and Jack was the very first host. I always said that Jack would cry when the sun came up, and he did cry a lot. And he got teary when talking about the military, so he would be pleased to see you guys from the National Guard here tonight. He had great respect also for first responders, for police and firemen. He helped raise millions of dollars for charities in St. Louis over the years. He loved to honor those who served. Jack was a very generous man. We always had a lot of young people and interns working at KMOX, and many times I saw him shaking hands with one of them, and they would walk away with a $50 or $100 bill in their hand, because he knew they needed money and he could afford to do it. I remember one young lady chased him to the elevator trying to give it back to him, and the door just closed right before she got there. He knew the names of the people who cleaned the station, and he treated them just as he would someone famous. Late in his life, he started writing poetry and some essays. Jack was a patriot. As you heard, he was a soldier in World War II, injured at the Bridge of Remagen. But he also found some humor in that. He said, I was really lucky. A French woman hid me in the basement for a month one time. But he said, of course, she lived in Atlanta, Georgia. A few years before he died, he traveled to France, and he visited the American cemetery at Normandy, where thousands of Americans died in the biggest amphibious invasion in history. When he returned, he wrote a moving poem that we played many times on KMOX. In fact, I just played it again on Memorial Day. His last public appearance, a few days after 9/11, baseball was shut down. Jack wanted to do something, so he wrote a poem. He brought it into the KMOX, and we loved it and put it to music. The Cardinals heard about it. Major League Baseball heard about it and asked him to read it as they resumed the season before the first game, and it was televised nationally. His body was ravaged by Parkinson's and a lot of other problems, but he stood there tall and said this to the world: since this nation was founded under God more than 200 years ago, we have been the bastion of freedom, the light that keeps the world aglow. We do not covet the possessions of others. We are blessed with the bounty we share. We have rushed to help other nations anytime, anything, anywhere. War is just not our nature. We won't start, but we will end the fight. If we're involved, we shall be resolved to protect what we know is right. We've been challenged by a cowardly foe who strikes, then hides from our view. With one voice we say, there's no choice today. There is only one thing to do. Everyone is saying the same thing and praying that we end these senseless moments we are living. As our fathers did before, we shall win this unwanted war, and our children will enjoy the future we'll be giving. Jack made a lot of great calls in his life. That probably was the best one. So for Jack and his family, I thank you for this, and I conclude by saying that what Jack said at the end of many of his broadcasts: so long for just a while. Thank you.
Don't leave. Don't leave. We're going to get our picture taken right here. Emphasizing, I want you to hold this, if you would. Sure. We're going to hold it this way. Hold the right way. Okay. You also have a...
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Our next is Martin Dugan.
Martin Dugan fostered his lifelong love of journalism early on. As a student at Southside Catholic High School, he served as editor of the school paper. He would later reprise that role at St. Mary's University in San Antonio, where he received a degree in sociology. Before reaching television fame as the host and provocateur of KETC's Donnybrook, Martin Dugan was perhaps best known as the editorial page editor at the St. Louis Globe-Democrat. Dugan began his 45-year career at the Globe as a summer employee, assisting the Sunday features editor. After 2 summers and a stint serving in the Marines during World War II, Dugan was hired full-time as a copy editor for the news desk. Eventually, Dugan's nose for news led him to the posts of news editor, associate managing editor, and ultimately editorial page editor, before retiring when the Globe was sold in 1984. Not long after, President Ronald Reagan appointed Dugan chairman of the President's Advisory Committee on Federal Pay, a post he held from 1984 until 1991. In 1987, Dugan approached Channel 9 about creating a news program featuring journalists discussing and debating hot topics in a no-holds-barred environment.
Welcome to Donnybrook, a freewheeling exercise with no holds barred. I'm Martin Dugan, and I want you to meet my cast of characters.
25 years later, the Emmy Award-winning Donnybrook is still aired weekly and is the highest-rated local public TV series in the country.
For now, for all of us on Donnybrook, I'm Martin Dugan. Good night.
Concurrently with Donnybrook, Dugan appeared regularly on other broadcast media. For 15 years, with the late Easy Ed McCauley, he hosted Beat the Press on radio station KSIV. For several years, he and his wife May hosted Catholic St. Louis on station WRYT. Along with Ray Hartman, he argued on KMOX Radio and on KTVI in St. Louis. He was interviewed weekly on St. Louis Public Radio, KWMU. Dugan also provided frequent political commentary on St. Louis media. Despite his professional success, Dugan values his family above everything. Dugan and his wife May have been married for 70 years. They were wed on May 26, 1942, shortly before Dugan joined the Marine Corps, where he served as a staff sergeant recruiter and a news editor of Marine combat correspondence. Together, the Dugans have 5 children, 10 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. Dugan has been a lifelong volunteer in civic organizations. His many charitable posts include vice chairman of the Matthews Dickey Boys Club and metropolitan area chairman of the National Alliance of Businessmen. Dugan is among the first to be inducted into the St. Louis Media Hall of Fame. He has been designated a distinguished alumnus of St. Mary's University in San Antonio and has been awarded an honorary doctorate in arts and letters by the University of Missouri St. Louis. And this is why Martin Dugan has earned his place in the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
I'm turning this over to Don Hicks.
Okay. Well, God love you all, and thank you especially the Missouri Broadcasters Association. First of all, I wish I had my lovely wife, May, with me. You've heard me refer to her that way, perhaps on Donnybrook. But she's so worn out from celebrating our 70th wedding anniversary. I shouldn't have said worn out. What I meant was overloved from celebrating. I'm grateful to have one of the products of our 70 years of marriage with us here tonight. Our son Pat, his lovely wife Joan, May's brother John, his wife Mary Fran, our friends Harry, Peggy, Herman Blanche, my dear friend Ignacio Lagos. But I want you to know two of the main reasons I've been honored by being selected for the Missouri Hall of Fame are with me tonight. Stand up. I mean my buddies Ray Hartman and Bill McClellan. And without them, I wouldn't be here, believe me. And my thanks to Channel 9 for having made Donnybrook possible, to Wendy Weiss and all the Charlie Brennan, all our great friends. The May Censor, well, I'll have one of them report to May what she missed here tonight. Thank you so much.
Just so you'll know, I think let's do something special here, break from the program just a little bit. Tomorrow is Mr. Dugan's 91st birthday. So stand up and sing a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Martin. Happy birthday to you. I promise I won't sing again.
All right, our next recipient is Jay Randolph Sr.
Age is meaningless, while experience is everything. Since the late 1980s, Jay Randolph spent 22 years broadcasting St. Louis Cardinal baseball games to hundreds of thousands of fans. Randolph returned to the Cardinal broadcast booth for KSDK-TV to call 22 games for the 2011 season. He also worked for Fox doing features on the Cardinals. In the late 1950s, all indications were that Randolph would become a professional golfer. He won the Egyptian Amateur Championship in Cairo in '56, the Collegiate Southern Golf Conference Championship in '57, and the Washington, D.C. Amateur in '58, and he played in 4 U.S., 2 British, and 2 Canadian amateur championships. Taking the job of sports and promotion director at WHAR Radio in Clarksburg, West Virginia in 1958 altered that course forever. After 5 years of building his play-by-play skills with West Virginia University, and 2 years in Dallas with the Cowboys and Southern Methodist University, 1966 brought Randolph to KMOX in St. Louis to call the football Cardinals and be the original television voice of the St. Louis Blues. Within 2 years, Randolph made the jump from radio to television, becoming sports director and sports anchor for KSDK-TV. More than 4 decades later, Randolph is one of the most respected sports reporters and knowledgeable play-by-play announcers in the country. Randolph's diverse wealth of sports knowledge has garnered him top play-by-play jobs with the PGA, MLB, Olympics, NFL, and NCAA. He has 3 Emmy Awards to his credit. Randolph was seen on CNBC broadcasting the PGA Champions Tour tournaments from 2000 to 2003. In 1993, the Florida Marlins played their first season and Randolph was their first TV play-by-play voice and the host of the Marlin Weekly magazine show. He remained with the Marlins for 9 seasons. In January 2005, Randolph was inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. More accolades were brought to the respected Randolph when he was inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in Springfield in February 2007. And this is why Jay Randolph Sr. has earned his place in the Missouri Broadcasters Association Hall of Fame.
Accepting is Jay Randolph Sr.
It's upside down.
Oh.
So am I.
Microphone is all yours.
My goodness. I want to thank the Missouri Broadcasters. This is a wonderful, wonderful honor. It's always nice to be recognized by your peers. It's special. I do want to say what a joy it is to see Martin here tonight. I am a great supporter of public television. In fact, I have it marked down that I want to watch the special from Royal Albert Hall live tomorrow from London, honoring Queen Victoria's golden anniversary. It's on at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'll be watching. But really, when I think of the great job that public television does, it's wonderful. And I think of the job that our media does. Like so many who got into this business, I wanted to be a professional golfer, and that didn't happen. But I got into it because I got into radio, working in a little station in Clarksburg, West Virginia, for $1.25 an hour and $10 a game. And well, we blasted out about 20 miles when we were really top-notch, rolling 250 watts. But it was a great learning experience for me. And when I stop to think of how this business has changed, I'm reminded of what my dad used to say, the only thing constant is change. And when I think of what this business has become from the late 50s when I got involved, it'll be 54 years, and I have been a sportscaster this month. But it's just remarkable what has happened to the industry and how the automation and the electronics have all come together to signal things all over the world. Ron Jacober is here tonight, and I can't step down without saying it was sheer joy to work for him, really. I worked for him for 16 years, more than he worked for me. I was running around the country for NBC a lot, and I was getting all the credit, and Ron was doing all the work. But we had a terrific relationship, and we still have it to this day. And he's been a great friend, and he's an extremely talented man. As it's been mentioned, Bill McClellan is here tonight. And when I'm a great newspaper reader, and the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is read the obituaries. And then I read Bill McClellan. I'm sorry you're second, Bill, but I do enjoy your column, and it's great to see Ray Hartman here. Martin has so many friends and has done so much for the St. Louis community. I want to congratulate certainly all of the inductees tonight. I must tell you that Jack Buck was the man that brought me to St. Louis. We were in a bar in Oklahoma City after a doubleheader basketball game, just kind of wetting our whistles. And he told me about a job that had become open up here, and it's a long story, but I'll just tell you that when I said, "What's the matter with me?" he said, "Would you really be interested?" And 3 weeks later, I was in St. Louis, and the remarkable Bob Hyland hired me to come to KMOX, and of course, the rest is history. I want to finish up by just saying that I was privileged to have a remarkable father. He served in the United States Congress for nearly 50 years, and he was a great communicator. And I learned a lot about communicating from him, watching him on the stump up in the hills and valleys of West Virginia. And he told me once, to be a good speaker and communicator, you need first of all to be a good listener. And I've tried to be a good listener. Sometimes people don't think I listen at all, but I really do try. Finally, I want to say that our oldest son, Jay, is here. Our other son, Brian, is here tonight. My grandson, Jennings, wonderful of you to come down and be with us tonight. And more importantly, the woman who I met in Dallas when I went there to do the Cowboy games, and who I've been married to for, well, I think it's 46 years. I'm always afraid to say. But I will tell you that Sue Randolph has been the one constant in my life that has kept me going and kept me straight and helped me to do the job that I've loved doing, and that was coming into people's homes either via radio or television and having the opportunity to bridge the gap, so to speak, from sporting events to their living rooms or bedrooms or wherever it might have been. And I'm still plugging, and it's a thrill to see a lot of friends here tonight, and it's a thrill to say hello to so many who I hadn't met tonight. I do want to, as Ron did, mention the National Guard. I worry about where we're headed, but then I see the wonderful job that the people in the service are doing today and how much we appreciate the job they do and how much they mean to us here in this country and around the world. I congratulate them and wish you well. I hope you have a terrific evening. I know you have your awards coming up a little later on, and I hope you all can make your way to that open bar later tonight if you can find it. Thank you so much. Bless you.
We're going to give you your awards down here. Oh, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all of our inductees, please. It's been a great show so far. It's going to continue to be a great show after dinner, so enjoy yourself, and we'll see you after dinner.